Community through business, building relationships, and building Waterloo Region. 570 News proudly presents Business to Business. Here's your host, Glenn Pelletier.
Welcome to Business News, powered by Allstream. And in studio with Greg DeRocher. He is the president of the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce, and joined on the line by Ian McLean, also a regular host of the program. He's on the road right now. Ian McLean is the president of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. Gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Ian, how are you?
It's a beautiful day in Washington, D.C.
Well, why are you in the U.S. of A's capital today, my friend?
Well, the Center in the Square organizes has a travel group that creates opportunities for business folks to travel to places of interest to folks in the region. And this year they're in Washington, D.C., and it's been a fabulous 3 days. It's just gorgeous here. If you haven't been here, it really is an amazing city. Walking by the White House and up through the Capitol and meeting with business folks here and legislators, that sort of thing. It's been really interesting seeing those things take place.
All right, lots to get to this afternoon. Greg, you have been traveling as well. You just got back from the world's richest country, highest GDP in the global realm, the most thriving economy, and we're talking about wealth of just gargantuan proportions. You were in Qatar, of all places. Mm-hmm. Why were you there?
I was there for the World Chambers Congress. It meets every 2 years, and that's where chamber CEOs and board members gather every 2 years in a different part of the world. And this year it happened to be in Doha, Qatar. And I had the great pleasure of going there. It's my first time to the Middle East and to that type of culture. But, Qatar is really a different Middle East culture than what, we see on TV.
Well, it's very Western, isn't it?
Oh, very Western. It's, even you can even tell with the way people shop. There's a tremendous amount of Canadians and Americans and Europeans that live in the region. In fact, I think you were actually looking up some of the statistics, and it's about 50-50.
Now, it's not for the faint of heart. It's how long a flight was it? It was about 20 hours flying time?
Yes, we won't talk about that, and especially when, as you well know, Ian, as a chamber executive, you're flying economy, so Absolutely. You're flying 8 hours over to London Heathrow, and then waiting 3 hours, and then jumping on a plane and going another 9.5 hours into Doha. But an amazing opportunity actually to talk to other chamber leaders from around the world, and I guess sometimes refreshing, but sometimes maybe discouraging. The issues are exactly the same, and that's maybe what's really the most interesting is that business issues, doesn't matter whether you're in Mumbai, India, or whether you're in the region of Waterloo, are exactly the same. The issues are the same. The solutions, actually, oddly enough, will be exactly the same as well. Mm-hmm. It was great.
Well, I missed the opportunity. I had a chat with the president or the president CEO of the Washington D.C. Chamber of Commerce was here. She was in a board meeting, so didn't get to connect on Friday. But she's coming up to Canada, and so we'll be looking for an opportunity to host her because there's obviously lots of connection between the region and things that are that influenced by Washington. So
All right, we're going to talk about the budget coming up momentarily, but. Greg just got back yesterday from the Ontario Chamber of Commerce annual general meeting, which wraps up today in Chatham. And for the uninitiated, and for those who might need a reminder, including myself, what goes on at the Ontario Chamber AGM?
Generally, the real purpose of that, of course, is to look over the past year of chambers of commerce throughout Ontario and see the good, the bad, and the ugly that's happened. But, more importantly is, the Greater KW Chamber of Commerce and the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce participate by submissions through to the OCC and provide resolutions for the OCC to represent the broader community of business in Ontario at the provincial legislature. And so I think we had some 86 pages of resolutions to go through over the last couple of days. Debate them amongst our chamber peers across the province, and then make some final decisions on what direction we want the Ontario Chamber to go in its lobbying effort.
And last year we had a number, and we've done jointly between Cambridge ourselves and including Guelph too. But as an example, our Highway 7 resolution passed last year at the OCC annual meeting, and we did get some results on that. The government has moved that up, and so that's going to happen. What were the resolutions we had this year that are important to the region, Greg?
Well, I think a lot of them, are really talking about the transportation again. We're wanting to make sure that the government highlights part of its infrastructure commitment to moving effectively business and commerce throughout the province. So we talked a lot about the connecting the greater the GTA transportation corridor with the Highway 7 project through Guelph and Brampton, and that's going to be a key piece of. However, we're very concerned not to put too much on the plate, whereby they might say, oh yeah, this is a bigger project. We really need to connect the Niagara region and the GTA with Brampton, Guelph, and KW. So let's hold off on the Highway 7 and let's get it. Let's put it all in as one package. So we were very strategic in really defining that resolution finally in the end to say this is not an adjunct. This is a component that needs to go forward once the Highway 7 and the GTA, Greater GTA, and the Niagara region's transportation projects are in place. So, I think transportation is probably key. We talked about border crossings in Michigan and Ontario. We talked about the our favorite subject, and that's arbitration.
Yeah.
And that, we had the opportunity to talk to Eric Hoskins about that. We had the opportunity to talk to Tim Hudak and as well Andrea Horwath about that. And oddly enough, from my perspective, they all seem to be singing the same tune. They all agree with it. They know there needs to be some arbitration legislation coming down, but I think I don't know whether it's the hesitation for politics.
Can I just stop you there, because Mayor Zare was talking about this the other day in terms of his reaction to the Ontario budget. He was pleased to see some arbitration reform in the budget. Could you explain it in sort of layman's terms? When you talk about arbitration, why as an issue, what are you talking about, and why is it important?
Well, I mean, part of the issue with arbitration is when you have fire and police and EMS as an example, they don't have the right to strike, so they have arbitrated settlements. So a provincially appointed arbitrator will take both sides and come up with a decision. What ends up happening and has traditionally happened, and this is where business in particular and frankly working with municipalities now are saying, arbitrators have some rules around saying. The ability to pay doesn't come into their decision making, because they assume that no matter what settlement they impose on a municipality, that you can just increase taxes enough to cover your bill. So especially I guess when it was highlighted, Greg, in 2008, 9, 10, that 3 or 4 years, when many of our businesses were either closing down, cutting staff, and certainly giving no increases. We were seeing 2.5%, 3%, 3.5%, 4% increases for some of those sectors. Mm-hmm. And while we respect the work they do, I mean, it has to be in line with what the communities can and taxpayers can afford to pay, and what business can afford to pay, because we pay a big chunk of that as well. So I think there just needs to be a bit more equilibrium or balance in the system.
Well, there's no question about that, and I think everybody understands that. But how do you implement that? Especially when you go to an arbitration hearing, you've got one individual sitting up there, and they oftentimes they do have latitude to make a decision, but oftentimes they say, we just got to pick one or the other, and it's, I guess, political in nature to that respect, where they. It's easier to side with the unions than it is to side with the government and or the municipality of the day. And you're right, Ian. It's just expected that the municipality will just have to go back and increase taxes, and nobody's going to complain, and or at least they're not going to complain to the arbitration judge, and that's just simply wrong.
I think one of the important parts about that, so to put it in context for listeners and for those that are on the program today, is those settlements drive the rest of what public sector settlements get, because it's very difficult to say, well, we've increased 3.5% for either a police or a fire settlement, and then go back to your CUPE union or your non-bargaining or your staff association and say, but you're not going to get the same thing. And that's just the plain old reality of saying you've got different bargaining groups inside a municipality, and that makes it very difficult.
One of the dominant resolutions at the Ontario Chamber Annual General Meeting, resolution number 16, building a 21st century workforce through workplace training, utilizing the skills of newcomers, and reforming the apprenticeship system. Everywhere you go, when you talk about the economy these days, we're focusing on employment, and things are shifting so dramatically and so quickly that trying to get a handle on providing decent paying jobs for young people is becoming one of the, if not the single greatest issue facing Western or global economy.
Well, and we're one of the only provinces in the country that still has a high ratio of journeyman to apprentice. So, you got to have 3 or 4 journeymen to every one apprentice, where in every other province, BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the eastern provinces, it's 1-to-1. So you have one journeyman, you can have one apprentice. So it's very difficult for some electrical firms or plumbing firms, for that matter, to be able to bring in enough apprentice to cover off all of the journeymen that they have.
And when you still have manufacturing base that supports a lot of those jobs of 20% in our regional and provincial economy, it's even more pronounced. And then a lot of things tie into that. I mean, we I know John Tibbetts is on your board, Greg, and you know him well, and he spoke to us along with the university presidents about the importance of the college system and training folks for those practical trade jobs, because they're great paying jobs. And we need to get more folks into that stream. The other part that I know that Greg and I have a lot of connection with is the sort of immigration partnership of Waterloo Region, and the importance of skilled immigrants that are coming to our country and getting best use out of them. So, I mean, there's a lot of pieces, and that we all know from a business perspective that getting the right folks with the right skills in the right places is hugely important to spurring economic growth.
Well, you have highly skilled engineering people driving taxi cabs in downtown Toronto, and those skills could be utilized very well in the workplace. But in order to really adjudicate the value of their engineering degree from wherever they came from, and compared to an engineering degree from Canada, there just doesn't seem to be that mechanism in place. And we need to speed that up, and we need to bring those folks on stream as quickly as we can.
That happens in a lot of the skilled professions, whether it's the medical profession, so doctors, engineers, all the professionals, and doesn't seem to be I think you're right. There's not enough urgency in terms of the governing bodies like the doctors, medical association, that sort of thing, of making those transitions quicker and utilizing the talent that's available in the country.
Well, government recognizes a skills gap is looming, but they're not passing any legislation to really deal with that. And when we do have skilled workers coming in from offshore who can really help with that, plumbers and electricians are not excluded from that. We have a number of them that have immigrated in, but they're not up to steam from our perspective, and they need to be in the apprenticeship program, and we need to get them in there.
All right, we're going to come back and talk and change gears. Talk about Chick-fil-A LeaderCast, which is coming up. When is that, Greg?
Friday, May the 10th.
Coming up on Friday. And we'll tell you all about that as we continue the discussion here on Business to Business, powered by Allstream on 570 News.
Business to Business, powered by Allstream, a presentation of 570 News. Watch the live video webcast at 570news.com. We'll return with more Business to Business. Is Business to Business on 570 News, powered by Allstream. All local, all relevant, allstream.com. Here's your host, Glenn Pelletier.
Welcome back to Business on 570 News, powered by Allstream. Thanks to our producers, Candace Cobbing and Catherine Drake. And we are joined, as always, by our hosts on the program, Greg DeRocher, President of the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce, and Ian McLean, President of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber. Ian is in Washington, D.C., where he's leading a tourism group as they get to know the capital of the United States. And Greg, who just returned from Qatar, is in studio. And you were in Qatar.
And happy to be in studio. I've traveled too much. I actually told my wife the other day I think I'd have had 3 or 4 nights at home in the last 2 weeks, and it's just about
And for those just joining, why are you in Qatar again?
I was there for the World Chamber Congress.
World Chamber Congress.
2,000 chamber folks from around the world, from every different country.
So is it a networking get-together? Are there resolutions?
No resolutions. It's really about sharing ideas and concepts and problems,
correct.
and it's a great. It was a great few days.
Okay, you have an event coming up. It's a joint effort between the Cambridge Chamber and the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber. It's Chick-fil-A LeaderCast, and it's really it's a global event, certainly a North American event, and where business people and people interested in self-growth and growing their businesses and growing themselves personally all join together simultaneously, watching a series of speakers who are speaking live in Atlanta, but their speeches are beamed across the continent, and you're taking part.
And you know what? The real interesting part about this is that although the live event is happening in Atlanta, the Chick-fil-A folks have really gone out of their way to make the satellite venues feel part of that live experience. And
that's absolutely true.
It's Ian and I, there's a couple of pictures that I was going through from last year's event, and see Ian and I, leaning back, laughing and intently writing on some of the, incredible information we were getting from the speakers. But, you and Ian, you can attest to this as well. You really get engaged. It's almost like having the speaker right there in front of you.
Well, it is. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, because you'd done it a year before. This was our first year last year associated with it. But you do feel like you're part of the group, and it is simulcast by satellite out of Atlanta, Georgia. But you do feel part of it, and when you've got the quality of speakers that you're talking about here, and we'll look forward to hearing from Jason soon, but about how they put it together. But what I found most interesting is I didn't know what to expect, but as I'd own my own small business. I operate a chamber, which is a small staff of 15. It was an amazing, with some of the speakers like Andy Stanley and some of the folks that talked about team building, about leadership development, that I used something from just about every speaker within weeks, within the next week, as I was working with my staff on what our strategic plan was and how we were going to keep the chamber moving forward for our members over the next year. So an absolutely amazing day of list of speakers, and I can't wait.
And as everybody knows, Chick-fil-A, of course, has the best fried chicken that there is in the United States of America. And how it ever crossed over from that to bringing this experience to, hundreds of thousands of people. And we got Jason Teagle online right now, I believe, from Atlanta, Georgia, and he's the director of event experience, and probably wears 100 other hats, as well as the event is getting closer and closer. Jason, welcome to the program.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here.
So why don't you take us a little bit through kind of the history of how this idea came forward, and what we should be expecting on May the 10th, next Friday, at our satellite location.
Yeah, absolutely. So the event is about 11 years old, actually. It started with John Maxwell, who's a prolific leadership author, communicator, and he started the event, and it kind of came about as he kept getting requests to speak all over the world, and he just could not fill it in his schedule. So he, at that time, that simulcast technology came about, and he said, well, why don't we use technology to kind of, I'll speak once, and, people can kind of get the technology across the world. So that's sort of the genesis of it, and then he began, over the years, to invite what he was calling his friends. So people that he met throughout the year would come and join him on stage, and it grew into what was known as the Maximum Impact Simulcast for many years. And then in 2009, Chick-fil-A approached us, and they said, we want to help supercharge it and take it to the next level. The event is produced by Giant Impact, which is a global leadership development company. We produce events all over the world. And so Chick-fil-A came on board and said, hey, we have the same DNA. We want to help you take this even to higher levels. And so we partnered with Chick-fil-A to make what is now known as the Chick-fil-A LeaderCast. And so this is our fourth year of the Chick-fil-A LeaderCast. And so we are preparing. This week is going to be crazy, and I'm sitting here with a sea of emails, but we're so excited for this year's event. We think it's going to be the best yet. We've been preparing for over a year for one day, which is for me crazy. My role is focusing entirely on this day, so it's fun to see it all come to life. And there's just, in addition to just a great speaker lineup, which we feel we have this year, the content, which we always say content is king. So if an event doesn't have good content, we don't think it's a win. But, one of the things that makes us unique is that it's not just about content. We really pride ourselves on the actual experience. And so that's entertainment, emotion, comedy. There's different elements that we program throughout the day to liven it up, make it interesting, keep you on the edge of your seat. And like you alluded to at the beginning of the program, we do take into account the host sites at a really, really high level. And, we don't just program it for Atlanta, but we really take into account, host sites in South Africa and host sites in Canada and host sites from California. And we've created I feel like even more so this year, some really unique experiences that will really, really integrate the host sites.
We'll get to the speakers in a moment, but can you tell us roughly how many markets or how many cities in North America are going to be taking part in this? What's the reach of this event?
Yeah, so we will have about 6,000 leaders live in Atlanta, and then we have about 750 host locations in over 20 different countries, so totaling about 130,000 leaders all over the world.
Wow. So how many in Canada, just out of interest sake?
I believe we have about 30 host sites in Canada, which is a pretty significant number. So,
but it also makes it much more exclusive for the members of our neck of the woods. Is that coming to the location we have at Binghamton's to hear from these world-class speakers is a real opportunity for especially small and medium-sized businesses.
In many respects, it's difficult for our area to even attract one of these speakers, let alone a whole host of them. And I think that's what really brings value. We're not charging a whole lot of money for this. We're basically covering our costs in order to really create the inspiration around the event and the results from sitting there for a day and getting that inspiration and those leadership points.
That it really is. I mean, that kind of reach, and I guess someone was talking down here. Obviously in Washington, and talking about the speaker circuit and Bill Clinton, and you think about getting someone like Condoleezza Rice, who would charge tens of thousands for one speech, and people, when they come through Ottawa or Toronto, you're paying $1,000 or $500 for one speaker. Mm-hmm. And the lineup that you guys have put together is extraordinary, and for what is a very reasonable price for a full day event, they're getting that type of world class content.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if everybody saw the total number of dollars that we pay for that speaker lineup and the amount that you would pay to go to the host site, it would sort of boggle your mind.
Guys, are there a couple of speakers in particular that you're looking forward to hearing from? I mean, I think, Ian, you've basically, the last couple of shows, you're looking forward to hearing from Condoleezza Rice, the former U.S. Secretary of State. But from a business perspective, I mean, there's a huge array of superstars. A couple that you're looking forward to hearing from, gentlemen.
Well, I'll start. I mean, I think Condoleezza Rice, I just think will be really fascinating, as we always talk, Greg and I, and Glenn, we talk on this program about how we're part of a global economy now, and I think getting that from a former Secretary of State, understanding where global markets are going, I think will be interesting for me personally. I think one of the things that Andy Stanley, we've talked about before, getting some of those sorts of leadership and skills development things for teams. That's what we lead. Greg and I lead small group of folks that have to serve 1,800 members, and it's really important for our teams to all be leaders and all be working on all cylinders. So for me, I got a lot out of both John Maxwell but also Andy Stanley last year. So I'm looking forward to what he has to say again this year.
And Greg,
I think Jack Welch as well is terrific to listen to. But
Jack Welch is
the chairman and former chairman and CEO of General Electric. He's fantastic. And Condoleezza Rice, of course, everybody would like to hear her. But Rourke Denver is going to be very interesting. Navy SEAL. He was star of the 2012 movie Act of Valor. his experiences are going to be very interesting to hear, and certainly from a leadership level, there's going to be tons of leadership advice from him.
Jason, can you hang on the line? We're going to take a break and come right back to you. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right, Jason Teagle from Leadercast, Chick-fil-A Leadercast in Atlanta, Georgia is our guest. We're coming back with more as Business to Business continues on 570 News, powered by Allstream.
We'll be right back with more Business to Business, powered by Allstream. Call in with your questions at star 570, 570-2545, or 1-800-570-5715. You know. It's who you know. Connecting community through business. This is Business to Business on 570 News. Powered by Allstream. All local, all relevant. Allstream.com. Here's your host, Glenn Pelletier.
And we are being webcast, as we are every Sunday here on 570 News at 570news.com. That's www.570news.com.
You're looking good too today, by the way, Glenn.
I got my hair cut.
I know. Yeah. It's awesome.
Well, wonders never cease.
Yeah, it was due. If you're gray, you can't have long hair.
No,
gray and long just doesn't work.
No,
you see these dudes with the ponytail, the gray thing with the pony.
Yeah.
Doesn't
you just
work.
Look like an old hippie.
It's not a good look.
No,
it's not. I'm a big fan of long hair. Used to have it all the time, but when it goes gray, keep it short.
Yeah,
keep it short. Go Richard Gere. Go George Clooney.
These two young guys online with us.
I look like. You got to admit, I'm a combination of Richard Gere and George Clooney. Wouldn't you agree?
Okay.
All right, we're digressing, which we often do on the program, but we have, and I said digressing in case you're wondering, exactly, we just kind of half heard that we're digressing. We're joined by Jason Teagle live from Atlanta, Georgia, home of the first place Atlanta Braves. We're not going to get into how the Jays are doing, Jason. That's a whole other topic. But as we've been hearing for the last month and a half, it's early.
Yeah.
It's early. It's early.
Yeah.
It's still early.
It's early.
Yeah, it's early. It's early.
But it's also, we got to get through LeaderCast before we can get back to the Jays.
That's my point. That's my point. We've done enough digressing. Ian, take it away.
Well, we've both Greg and I have sort of picked a couple of the things we're looking forward to, but maybe Jason, you can take a couple of minutes and sort of run through the lineup of speakers, how the day sort of fits together. But mentioning the speakers, because I think what we want is we're having our registrations going well, but we still got some room for folks, and it's well worth it, because when you hear about the quality and the breadth of people that are speaking, I think it will really resonate with business owners out there. So tell us who's speaking and how it fits together.
Yeah, absolutely. So Andy Stanley is going to start us off again this year. He was the highest rated speaker last year, and we like to say that he is the best communicator on the planet. So excited to have him back. David Allen is he wrote a book called Getting Things Done. He's one of the world's foremost authorities on productivity, and he's going to really speak to our theme of simplicity and simply lead this year. And then Sonia Richards-Ross, who's won the women's 400-meter sprint in the London Olympics. She's going to join us and actually be interviewed by Linda Cohn of ESPN. So that'll be session one. And session two, Henry Cloud, Dr. Henry Cloud, who has written a number of really just amazing leadership books, from Integrity to Boundaries to a new book that he just came out with, Boundaries to Leaders. And he's going to speak to us at the top of session two. And then we'll close out the first half of the day with none other than John Maxwell, and he's going to do a talk on simplicity for us. So that's the first half of the day. We're really excited about that. And then the second half of the day is sort of packed with power as well. We start off with Coach Mike Krzyzewski, the legendary coach from Duke University and also the U.S. Olympic team. He's the winningest coach in Division I men's basketball history. He's going to speak to us in session three, as well as Dr. Condoleezza Rice, former U.S. Secretary of State. So they will both be in session three. And then in session four, we'll have Jack Welch start us off in that session, and he's going to be interviewed by Henry Cloud. And that's just going to be a really good interview. If any of you have heard him speak, he's just packed with gold. He's really a authority on leadership, and he's just got so much to say on our team. And then you mentioned Rourke Denver before. He's one that I'm personally looking forward to the most. He's kind of a no-name at this point, but he will be a name for hundreds of thousands of people next Friday afternoon. He's he's going to close out the day. But he, Navy SEAL, and he led all training for the Navy SEAL, and then he was the star of the hit movie Act of Valor. So kind of a Hollywood sizzle there as well. I talked to him the other day, and he is so excited for the event. And we feel that we have just a great speaker lineup, and we also have a few surprise appearances that we're not announcing to anybody, but be on the lookout for those that we're excited about as well. So, you look at the caliber of that lineup and sort of what we pay for those speakers in Atlanta. And I believe that you all are offering up $100, which includes lunch and a book and networking opportunities, which is a crazy good deal for your location. So encourage everybody to go. It's going to be an amazing event, both in Atlanta and at the Chamber site. So encourage you to be there. I'm the champion in this event, and I'm most looking forward to this event than any other year.
To work out the cost, that's like $10 a speaker plus you get lunch.
Yeah,
That's a good deal.
It really is an amazing deal. And Jason, thanks so much for joining us today. We expect to have a good crowd on like we did last year, and a great opportunity for. And I think kudos to Chick-fil-A and the LeaderCast gang for bringing such a world-class group together, and we're very pleased to be providing that to business and our chamber members in the region of Waterloo.
Thanks very much, Jason.
Absolutely. Good luck to you guys. Thanks.
Good.
Okay.
That was Jason Teagle of LeaderCast, Chick-fil-A LeaderCast, headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, and they will be putting on the show this coming Friday, May the 10th. And
starts at 8:30 in the morning, so get there and get your coffee. And
so how does somebody register if they want to?
Actually, at this point, they should probably be going right to our website, so KWChamber.com or thecambridgechamber.com, or giving our offices a call. It's critically important. Like, we have to give the numbers for the lunches, for the breaks, and all of that kind of stuff early in the week. So this is absolutely an incredible day. I think oftentimes, Ian and I, Ian, wouldn't you say we go to hundreds of events a year? Sometimes you get kind of evented out, and you say, oh well, just another one, and we're expected to be at a certain number of them. But you know what? I think last year, and both Ian and I, it's a Friday, we kind of thought, oh, gee, got lots of stuff on our plate. But, we got there, and it just consumed us. And we felt so good about ourselves afterwards. I felt like going right back to the office and starting to work again. It was very motivating, inspiring, and I think the information is great.
Yeah, we got such great feedback from those that were there, saying, "Boy, that was well worth a day." And that's the other thing. Some people kind of say, "Well, geez, it's a whole day," but you know what? You get, as an example, if you're a lawyer or an HR professional, you get professional development credits that they all need on an annual basis. So obviously, those associations are seeing this as being a valuable leadership skills development opportunity. And that's what I would say is, if you're going to spend one day doing sort of professional development or team building, bring a couple of people from your office, because I guarantee you will not be disappointed. It is absolutely an amazing day. It's the best 8 hours. I think it goes from 9 till 4 or 8:30 till 4:30. It is the best day you can and for $100 you can't beat it. So call our offices or register online on either of our chamber sites. But it really is a spectacular day, and I agree with you. Sometimes you kind of look and say there's lots of events going on. This is one that's not to be missed.
This is one that comes back with huge value. The ROI is incredible. If you're a manager of a department, you've got that young individual that's an up and comer that you really can see this is an individual that has leadership qualities. Or anybody, or somebody who you want to motivate, someone who has maybe kind of slipped back a little bit, and you want to recharge their battery. For $100, like, the return on investment is absolutely incredible. It comes back, 100 times fold, because people who left, I was getting emails, and so was Ian after last year's event. Thanks very much. Wow, really didn't realize it. Lawyers who were going there and HR people who were going there just for the credits, because it was cheap for them to go and get their credits, saying, I don't care whether they give credits or not. I'm coming back. I'm going to be there because that was a powerful day for internal development, and I think that's really the key element here. And all business managers, business owners should be listening to this and taking the time to come on this week. Give us a call, give our staff a call, or whatever, and get those people out to this event because they certainly will feel a benefit of it.
All right, we're going to come back with our Allstream segment. The business to business is powered by our good friends at Allstream. We're going to come back and chat with Angie Spesic when Business to Business, powered by Allstream, continues on 570 News.
Business to Business, powered by Allstream, a presentation of 570 News. Watch the live video webcast at 570news.com. We'll return with more Business to Business. Who you know. Connecting community through business. This is Business to Business on 570 News. Powered by Allstream. All local, all relevant. Allstream.com. Here's your host, Glenn Pelletier.
Welcome back to Business on 570 News, powered by Allstream. And every week we talk to our representative from Allstream. They are our main sponsor, and we're delighted to be chatting with Angie Spesic this morning. She is the Director of Customer Experience at Allstream. And Ian, take it away.
Well, thanks for joining us, Angie. And this week we're asking you to tell us what our network providers of our businesses may not be telling us. So what aren't they telling us about our communications?
Well, you're going to, as a business, want to ensure you're getting the most value from your network provider. For most organizations, telecommunications is a big part of their operating expense. So if you don't know your contract end date, now's the time to check, because contract renewal is a perfect opportunity to ask your provider some tough questions.
Well, and what would those questions be? I mean, there must be a series of things that each of our business owners and listeners on the radio could run through to make sure they've got all the facts on the table.
Yeah, absolutely there are. Here's some questions that you should be asking. First, we all know how fast technology is changing. You may be using some older network services that have gone down in price. So be sure your pricing is competitive. Don't be shy to ask for their best price. Second, is more bandwidth the solution? Well, not always. You may be experiencing performance issues like latency, where increasing bandwidth can drive up costs but not solve the problem. Ask about WAN optimization as an alternative. Like a car, you may just need a tune-up to get more horsepower, not a whole new engine. Is one network better than two? Well, if you're running voice on cost-inefficient Centrics and data on something else, now's the time to look at a business case for a converged business IP solution to bring it all together. Fourth, do you understand the technology choices available to you? Is your provider taking the time to explain the difference between, say, managed network services like MPLS and switch Ethernet? Well, with so many options available, it's hard to make sense of it. So you want to make sure that you're getting the expertise and the advice you need to drive your business forward. Security is an important aspect, with so many of today's organizations vulnerable to attacks on their data and intellectual property. A firewall alone secures the front door of your business network, sometimes leaving the back door and windows wide open. Be sure to ask about DDoS attack solutions. If you don't know what DDoS is, well, it's distributed denial of service. Lastly, you should have a dedicated account manager working to ensure that you're getting the most value from your network services. Unfortunately, the telecom industry isn't known for customer service, and Allstream is working really hard to change.
And how are you changing that? What's Allstream doing to change that customer experience?
Well, we've spoken to thousands of businesses to develop services and offerings focused on what customers want. And one example is the launch of the Allstream Service Guarantee, our customer service promise. It's proof of what makes us unique as a national provider focused only on business, that we're big enough to deliver and small enough to care about the quality of our relationships with our customers. Our guarantee comes to life with 5 promises. We give you a dedicated order manager. That's a single point of contact that oversees the delivery of your solution from contract to installation to acceptance of your services. Second, we give you a guaranteed service delivery date. So we work with you to set up a firm installation date that meets your needs, to which we'll hold ourselves accountable. We'll walk you through your first bill, and if you need, if you have an issue, we'll provide an expert to resolve your issues, a single point of contact to resolve that issue from start to finish, and a reference. So we'll connect you directly to an Allstream customer so you can learn more what it's like to do business with Allstream. We back these promises with a guarantee. So if we miss any of the 5, you'll get a free month of service. At Allstream, we're working hard to change customer experience in our industry by being accountable and focused on delivering customer experiences. Really exciting.
Okay, well, Angie, this has been, a really helpful discussion, because I think, as communication is the lifeblood of just about all business, no matter what sector they're in, it's critical for our listeners to understand what the options are before them and the questions that they need to ask. So thank you for joining us today. We really do appreciate it, and we'll look forward to hearing from you again in the near future.
Thanks for allowing me to join today.
All right, that was our guest from Allstream, Angie Spesic, and we have less than a minute to go, gentlemen. It's all about LeaderCast. This coming Friday, get your tickets, make sure you register for the event. You can do that by going to cambridgechamber.com or greaterkwchamber.com.
Well, we really wanted to talk a little bit about the budget, but
we're out of time.
But quite frankly, I think LeaderCast is probably going to be more urgent and make more difference than the budget's going to make right now.
And Jay.
So
and we can chat about the budget going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I'm not sure whether Ian has left us or his bus must have.
No, I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I think by the time we get to our next program, we'll have lots of provincial budget stuff to talk about.
Excellent.
But we're really looking forward to LeaderCast.
All right, Ian, thanks again. Have a safe
guys.
trip back. Greg, as always. To Candace Cobbin and to Catherine Drake, thank you for producing the show. Blue Jays Baseball is next. Thank you for listening. You have been listening to Business, powered by Allstream on 570 News.